It seems like most land podcasts try to provide pointers on how to succeed. We certainly do. But after working with and watching hundreds, if not thousands, of land investors over the years, we've seen so many flame out. And after a while, certain patterns developed. So we thought it would be interesting to do a podcast on why people fail in the land business in the hopes that you can avoid these mistakes. So without further ado, let's dive into this and find out why people fail in the land business.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Land.MBA podcast. I'm David Van Steenkist with my co-host, Mr. Howard Zunder. How are you?
How you doing, Dave?
I'm good. I'm just enjoying my morning coffee. It's good to have a virtual cup of coffee with you, my friend.
Indeed. We are, where I live, we are completely encapsulated in a sheet of ice. And that makes me think of Canada. So I have my Tim Hortons mug. Tim Hortons is a very popular coffee chain in Canada. And so in solidarity to all the freedom truckers in descending upon Toronto, right? Is it Toronto or Ottawa or wherever they are?
Ottawa.
What's that? Ottawa? Yeah, I should know that. I say salute. We're with you. We respect you. Godspeed.
And this is to commemorate how Trudeau is crying.
I hope Americans will muster their courage. And the funny thing about that is, my next door neighbors are Canadian. I know tons of Canadians, and they are absolutely the nicest people you'll ever meet. I mean, they're just nice, like ridiculously nice. Right. And to think that they are standing up their freedoms is amazing. And I hope America takes a good lesson from that.
Absolutely. Yep. So we're talking about land here today, though. So let's shift.
Yeah, there's a lot of land in Canada.
True. And the truckers are seeing a lot of it as they drive by.
Yeah, that's right. If they're allowed to cross the border.
Exactly. Well, any of you truckers, if you're out there listening, if you need another business, side hustle, something for your spouse to do while this hardship is going on, give us a call. We'll teach you the business. So, all right. So today, what is the topic, Howard?
We're going to investigate why land investors fail. And you know what? It sounds kind of a negative topic, right? But the fact of the matter is, over the course of the almost 6 years that I've been involved with this, I've watched a lot of land investors fail and exit the business. And I talk to a lot of them as they're trying to succeed, and then when they drop out, and there are certain themes of why people drop out, and I think it would be a really valuable exercise to just go through what are those common themes. Why do people not make it? Because we talk all the time we interview people who are succeeding, that they're doing 7 figures in revenue a year. We hear the stories. But what about the people who aren't making it? So we want to model and follow what the successful people do, but we also want to, know what the people who are unsuccessful is not really a great word, but who are not making it, so we can kind of avoid those mistakes as well.
Yep. And so I think the number one issue, and there's a lot of tentacles to this, but it's mindset. Mindset has a ton to do with it. Look, we hear a lot of people talking about your why. When you're an entrepreneur, things can get difficult. You go through. So first of all, you're with your mindset. You need to have set proper expectations. But in the first place, if we don't have a strong enough why, when things get difficult, we're going to fold. We're not going to be able to make it through those bumps and pitfalls, you know. And you want to talk a little bit about the universe?
Let me put my tinfoil hat on so I can absorb the energy. No, honestly, one of my, I think one of the great life lessons I've just somehow have achieved over the course of a lot more years than I care to admit to is that people, and it's not just business, but people always meet your expectations. Somehow, if you have a low expectation of somebody, they're going to find a way to meet that expectation. And if you have a really high expectation of people, they're going to find a way to meet that expectation too. It's just, I don't know, the universe conspires. So, I find, especially like with team building and everything else, I always try to have the highest expectation of people because, and really can make sure that I believe that because somehow people always meet those expectations. But that's also true of ourselves. And it's much harder to do for ourselves because no matter how much, and I don't get too psychological here, but no matter how much we may try not to admit it, inside of us, we're still like little children, with our parents. And whatever our belief systems were that created that wiring in our brains when we were younger, it still oftentimes is there. And what we believe about ourselves and our capabilities, the universe has a way of just delivering that. And so if we can really
That
believe,
sounded really woo woo.
yeah, yeah, isn't that, it is kind of woo woo. But you know what? It's just so true.
It's true.
It really is. Um, I've had the privilege of working with some great, great entrepreneurs in my career. And one thing I've noticed is that the most successful entrepreneurs have an absolutely ridiculous and unreasonable belief in themselves.
Yeah,
They don't need to know all the answers. They don't need to how to do anything. They don't need to have the money. They don't need to have the contacts. All they need is to know what they want to do, and they have absolute utter confidence that they're going to figure the rest out, and they always do.
exactly. And that figuring it out is not always. So many people get concerned with how do I do this? How do I do that? And a business coach once told me, forget about how, figure out who. Just know what's next and who. That
Yeah.
who is who do I need to find that information out from, or who do I need to hire to outsource this to, or whatever. But forget about the how because what happens is, and I don't want to get out of order here, but figuring out the who versus the how comes down also to analysis paralysis. People tend to
We're going
over,
to get to.
which we're going to get to. So
But before we get off a mindset, um, if if somebody grew up, let's just say lower middle class, and that's how they kind of define themselves, and then they get into land, they become a bit of an entrepreneur. It's very difficult for them to think in terms of doing multiple millions of dollars of revenue a year and making seven figures a year because it just doesn't seem like a possible reality for them because that's not where they come from. And so taking some time and doing exercises, maybe finding the guru or whatever it is to rewire yourself to say, you know what, I don't see myself anymore as a lower middle class person. I see myself as a super successful, wealthy person. And there's nothing that's going to stop me from doing that. And I believe that I can do it, that I should do it, and that future belongs to me. And when it's only when you believe it that the power really happens. If you just say the words, but you still in your mind, believe that you're lower middle class, That's the expectation that the universe is going to deliver on. So you have to really believe it. And it is woo woo, but it is probably the single most important thing that we can do as people to accelerate our success.
I totally agree. And, you know, Howard made that sound so easy to just, oh, just change your mindset. No, it takes work and it takes time. I still struggle with it every day, and it's something that actually I could use to work harder at. I've had some business coaching along these lines, and it's an exercise, a routine in keeping that dream and those goals in front of you and visualizing them and memorizing. It's not just, okay, it's December, January, let's write our goals down, and then we do the same damn thing every year. We put them in a drawer or in a document that's saved on your Google Drive and you never freaking look at it. You got to, we have to meditate on these things so that we build that belief and we build that dream and we make it so damn strong. Or what is our why? Maybe it's just because maybe we didn't have a great life growing up and we've got children we want to provide a great life for. It can be as simple as that we don't want them to have to go through what we went through. It could be many things. You look at some immigrants and how successful that some of these immigrants are versus, people like myself who grew up in a middle class home and never really wanted for anything. I had everything that I needed as a kid. And I see a lot of people, like myself that, we did okay. We mediocre for most of our lives. And then either something happened in our lives to give us that push forward, or we just kind of stayed in that mediocrity. And I think people that came from real hardship have this built in, I am never, ever, ever going to go back to that. And that's why you see they just have a strong conviction. And so it's not easy to do, but there's books out there. There's tons of, quote unquote gurus, people like Tony Robbins, things like that. So step number one is mindset. All right, guys.
All right.
What's the next reason why people fail, Howard?
They believe the gurus. First, we're saying go to the gurus. Now we're saying don't believe. Well,
Different
which gurus? There are different gurus. So when we get online and we look at the Facebook groups and we listen to the podcasts, Facebook, these are the new primary realms of marketing. They replaced the billboards and the and paper documents and sales. I mean, we learn, and people are marketing their wares and their offers through podcasts and through Facebook. And I say that respectfully as a person who podcasts and advertises on Facebook. And you read all and you can see it if you take the time. You can see the format. It's so obvious. First, they say something really intriguing or controversial to get your attention on a subject matter that some group of people are going to be interested in. Then they suck you in and they tell you a whole story, but they don't give you the answer. And then they say, and all you have to do is watch our free video, and then you watch their free video and you get a little bit of the answer. And then, of course, it sucks you into the course, and which is really where they want you to go so they can make the money. Well, the fact of the matter is, sometimes people are making big, audacious claims and promises that aren't real. And so one of those claims that, and I'm not going to attribute this to anybody, but people may get the feeling first coming into Land that you can make $10,000 per month passive in 6 months. It's easy. Just come in and follow my by the numbers plan, and within 10 months you're going to be making 10,000 passive. It's just going to happen. It's not a terribly difficult business, but it's a business that you have a bunch of things to learn and you have to work hard at. And what you have to learn is often.
Can I interject right there real quick?
Sure.
Because so it's just, and we talked about this earlier, it's the difference between easy and simple, or simpler. If somebody has, let's say they came into the land business, they came into through a marketing funnel because they're interested in real estate. Either they have no real estate experience at all, but they're looking for an entry point and are intimidated by traditional sticks and bricks, houses, apartments, things like that, because they might have a mindset about money and things like that, and the barrier to entry, or they've been dabbling or trying pretty hard, let's say maybe at wholesaling houses or flipping houses, but haven't had the success they needed. Those businesses, and I've done them both successfully, um, are much more complex. So simple and easy. That's really what I just wanted to give that determination or that
That's,
differentiation.
it is a great point. It's a simple business, but it's not an easy business.
Yeah.
That's right. Or is it an easy business and not a simple business?
Oh,
One
it's
of the two.
simple, not easy.
Simple, not easy. That's what I thought. The truth is, uh, there's always going to be a learning curve. Every one of us, I don't care what your background you're bringing to this building, or to this business, everybody's going to have a learning curve in any new thing that you do. And how much of a learning curve you have is dependent upon what knowledge and experience you're bringing to the table. But in order to be really successful in land, you're going to need to master the land business in particular. But in order to master the land business, you're also going to have to master business in general. This is a business. This is an entrepreneurial venture. So if you've built businesses in the past, this might be not a big deal to you. If you've never built a business in the past, you might have a bit more of a learning curve in that area. Doable? Absolutely. But it's going to take time and energy.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you have to be like an MBA. It just means that you've got to learn some certain skill sets. A little bit of numbers, a little bit of marketing, a little bit of sales, and then build on those things to get better. And then of course, as your business grows, you learn what you suck at or hate, and that doesn't uh, you don't need to spend too much time in getting good at, but you need to find somebody who can do it for you. So
Yeah,
that's also part of learning business, and that's hiring and training and creating
yeah,
systems.
that's right. And accounting and finance and all those things that have to happen when you manage a business. I have to say, just a quick thing on an MBA. I have an MBA, and I would say that getting that MBA was the best year and a half of my life because it was so much darn fun because of where I went and how it worked out. And the network I built was phenomenal. Outside of that, I would say a complete waste of time. I would say that an MBA actually, in a lot of cases, hurts an entrepreneur more than it helps an entrepreneur. And an MBA, in a lot of cases, teaches you how to be a good quality mid level manager in a large corporation.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily, and it almost sometimes can even sap your entrepreneurial energy. So, you got to be careful about it. I would not, and I guess the reason I say that is if you don't have one, do not think that that hurts you in any way. In fact, it may help you.
Right.
Um, but you got to master land. You got to master business. You got to master negotiation. You got to master your communication skills, particularly on the phone. You have to master. You have to learn how to use spreadsheets. I mean, there's no way. There's at some level you're always going to be working with spreadsheets to calculate, values of properties or whatever it is you're doing. I mean, there's just some bait. You don't have to be a master at it, but there's some things that you're going to have to learn. There
Even
are
just for
things you're going to have to
organization,
learn.
even just for organization,
Yeah.
when you're starting to put your properties in there and things like that. But also, certainly for developing your mailing list. Um, Definitely. And coming back to negotiation, and that's both on the acquisition side and the disposition side. And it really comes down to sales 101. So, hey, take a Grant Cardone course. He's got some great stuff out there. There's plenty of other salespeople out there. If you need help there, read the book Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. It's a freaking phenomenal book. I'm actually getting read. I was just telling my staff the other day I want them to read it, and I'm going to read it again. That's something that should be a couple of time a year read.
I'm on my fifth read of that book.
Yeah, yeah. it's deep for sure.
Yeah,
And you
I want to
you
say,
also,
well, what was it? I had, oh gosh, I had one more thought, and then you started talking.
damn me.
uh, um, all right, it'll come back to me. I can't remember it
And then I will
now.
fart.
I'm
All
dementia is
right.
setting in.
Right. Right. Maybe the weather is freezing your brain. Um, all right. So talking about freezing the brain, let's get into analysis paralysis.
Or, as I like to say, paralysis by analysis. Who's right
There
there?
you
No, I remember what I was going to say about the previous one. It was just a quick story. I had a land speed customer who asked me if I had any VAs that he could point I could point him to. So I pointed him to a VA in the Philippines, and he was not a particularly technically oriented person. And I told him from the beginning, I'm like, look, you need to master this stuff, and you need to train your VAs. That's I mean, they know how to use my system, but that's different than knowing how to run a business. And he didn't. He just threw everything to them and expected to sit back and collect checks. It just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, you have to do the work. There's no way around it.
That's right.
So just something to command, and he burnt out. He failed out. So he was a classic example of somebody who failed because he thought that the system, the software and the process that was developed around from that, or that software was built on, and some trained VAs would run the business for him. It doesn't work that way. You have to run
Yeah,
your business.
it's there. So we come back to mindset and level of expectations, and exactly now, um, we don't want to mislead you and think that you're always going to have to do the work, all the work, and that the you can't get a team of VAs trained to run a lot of your business. I'm at that point, but the thing is, you have to, as we talked about earlier, you have to master it so you can teach it to, so you can write the processes, develop the processes to teach and train your staff. And so you can manage your staff. So you know what, KPIs, key performance indicators to look at while you're managing and to be able to, you still got to steer the rudder.
Right.
And then you also have to work if you want your business to grow, you need to be working on the business. And it's not going to be effective you working on the business if you haven't spent enough time working in the business. And we want to take certainly a lesson from the E-Myth book, and another fantastic one for entrepreneurs. And I should read that again
Right.
this year as well. But systemization and being able to, he talks about working on your business, not in your business, so that you get to a point where you've worked in it. You do the things that I just talked about and create the systems, and so the day to day is not sucking you in all the time to where you don't have the time to work on your business. That's where you ultimately want to get, but you've got to
Yeah.
put in the work in the beginning.
Just a really quick little story. It's something that happened to me. So in my first career, I was in the Marines. I spent 7 years in the Marines, and by the time I had left the Marines, I had been in charge of some very large teams. And then when I got my MBA, and then I was trying to get a job and failing miserably at it. And I ended up getting an interview with a telecom company of all places here in Connecticut, and really nice guy. And we're going through the interview, and we're right kind of almost at the beginning of the interview. And he said to me, he said, Howard, I'm going to take all the pressure off. You're not getting the job. I'm like, what? He's like, and now that we've got it out of the way, let's just talk for a minute. He said, here's the problem. You have all of this leadership experience. You've led large teams. You know how to manage large teams. And you tell me you want to be a director level in marketing. And from an experience perspective and a leadership perspective, that's the right level for you. The problem is you have no experience doing any of the jobs that you want to lead in marketing.
Right.
Therefore, I can't give you the job. And I think you're going to have this problem wherever you go. So I had to walk away from that and really rethink my strategy on how I was going to go get a job after that. But he was right. I mean, at some point, if you want to lead a team, you need to have some understanding and knowledge of what they're supposed to do. Otherwise, you don't know how to allocate the work, the responsibility. You don't know how to create the right incentive plans and compensation plans. And you don't know how to, David talked about KPIs, key performance indicators. You don't know what to track about them. So you have to have some experience in the business before you just give it off to somebody else to do it. Once you have some, you don't have to have like tons of experience, but once you have some, then you're in a position now to understand how to allocate work to different people and how to set them up for success. And then they may take it way farther than you ever thought of. And they may come up with new ways of doing things that you never thought of and grow past you in that specific part of the business, which is great. But to get them started, you need to know what's going on.
Hey, folks, people often talk about automating and outsourcing your land flipping business, but what does that really mean? Generic solutions leave it to you to figure out how to set up and maintain the automations. I've been running my land business on LandSpeed for over 3 years because it's a total solution and allows me to focus on being a great land investor. LandSpeed was built specifically for land investing by a land investor. And with many of the most successful people in the business using it for years, it's evolved into one of the most feature-rich solutions on the market. Some of the key benefits I get are being able to create and manage mail campaigns and neighbor letters. I'm able to automate tasks amongst my team, create contracts and deeds, and email, text, or mail them within a few clicks. I can automatically capture sales leads from any lead source, including Facebook Messenger. Then it automatically pushes those leads into my sales funnel so that I can manually follow up, but they also go into my automated drip campaign. And since LandSpeed's a total cloud-based solution, I can run my business from anywhere in the world with a phone, laptop, or tablet. So if you want to turn your hobby into a professional, scalable business, just go to landspeedtech.com/Dave to receive a $150 discount today.
Okay, so we were talking about analysis by paralysis.
Yeah, right. And perfection.
So you're a perfectionist. I mean, I look at I've got all this straggly hair on my head. You've got this nice smooth chrome dome. I mean, it just even in your physical stature, you look like perfection, right? What does it mean?
Nada.
Gotta just shield my eyes from that, because your light's bouncing off your head there.
Yeah, I don't have the best lighting in this room. But right, exactly. I mean, everything being perfect. Like I've had students that just anguish over the pricing on their mailer being perfect. We teach a lot about pricing, and there is no such thing as perfect, or other things being, just right. When things get uncomfortable and people don't think things are right, they'll go and they'll work on redoing their logo, and they'll work on other tasks because they're overwhelmed by something that in their business that is blocking them, and they don't think it's perfect enough, or they don't believe that their knowledge is enough to get going or keep going. And the thing is, at some point you got to ready, fire, aim. You learn by taking action. You don't have any success until you take action. And so if you're all bound up and caught up and stuck because you're caught up on something that you don't think you're good enough at yet, or your website isn't perfect, your letter isn't perfect, it's like, you know what? Get it okay and start sending mail and get it out there. And everything starts with a deal. Everything. So,
That's right.
you, you send enough mail, your pricing is good enough, and your letter's good enough, you're going to get some deals. Everything starts to happen after that. Forget about your stupid website. Forget about your logo and all that crap. It means nothing. Forget about setting up an LLC.
Get a deal.
You know, get a deal.
That's
Yeah.
right. Absolutely. There was a saying in the military. I think it might have been Patton. I don't know exactly who said it, but it said an 80% plan executed today is better than a 100% plan executed next week. Always.
Right.
It's you got to have a certain level of it's got to be together to a certain point. I mean, I wouldn't go out and execute a plan that's 40%. 80% is not bad. And you're going to quickly get feedback to figure out what that 20% is, so you can make some quick corrections. But in fact, if you put an 80% plan out there, the feedback you're going to get is going to fill that gap to 100% much faster than just sitting in an ivory tower and thinking about it. And
Absolutely.
so I also fancy myself a bit of a hobbyist musician, and I've played in front of audiences. And one thing that I've also learned that I think is a good metaphor is that nobody knows what perfection is except you. Like when I play, if I stumble over a note or something, I immediately hear it. And if I stop and says, "Oh my God, I screwed it up," and then I stop playing, everybody's gonna say, "Wow, he really screwed up." I don't do that. I just stumble over the mistake and keep going, and no
Right.
one ever notices.
No.
No, because they don't know what perfection is, and it's the same thing with land. I make mistakes all the time. I make mistakes in my letter. I make mistakes in my offers. I make mistakes in how I handle phone calls. I make mistakes left. In fact, if you're not making 10 mistakes a day, you're just not trying hard enough.
Right. Well, every success is built on a stack of failures, right? And
Absolutely.
sometimes mistakes end up really good. I made a really bad mistake on a property that I am paying $10,000 for, $8,000 for it, and it's worth 200. So you do it enough,
Yeah.
and you sometimes fall in a bucket of crap and come out smelling like a rose. Um, this is just absolutely completely lucky, and don't expect deals like that. But you know what? You do things long enough and you work hard at it, every now and then you're gonna, I like to say the harder I work, the luckier I get. And
Yeah.
that was just a purely lucky deal. But look, not actually a great example, but nothing's perfect. And I like to use the terminology because you'll again, coming back to the perfection, you got to fix the tire while the car is moving. Just get the car moving.
Yeah. Action. It's absolutely right. And the thing is, part of success in that 80% plan and plus action is knowing and believing that you can turn lemons into lemonade, and you can. I mean, I can't tell you. There have been many times where I've, not so much recently, but in the past, where I've made some pretty bad mistakes in my pricing, and I've sent out offers that didn't make a whole lot of sense, and especially if they were overpriced. And I'd get people on the phone, and I would just say, "Hey, I owe you an apology. I mean, we screwed up the pricing on this. I've created an expectation, and I can't deliver on it. I'm so sorry. I can't do that price. This is what I can do if you'd still be interested in having the conversation. And if not, I understand." Well, that little snippet of conversation humanizes you and now creates a relationship of trust and honesty. And if the lower price is not to their interest, they walk, and they would have walked anyway, even if you put the right price on the letter. So you haven't lost anything. But a whole bunch of people that might be interested in selling your property will just appreciate the honesty. And you couldn't have achieved that level of trust and relationship if you didn't screw up the pricing in the first place. No, I'm not advocating that you purposely screw up your pricing, But what I'm saying is that there are very, very few mistakes that you can make that you can't come back from.
Yeah.
So get it 80% right and get it out the door. Get the deal.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, good. And with that, I'm just going to allude. We're running out of time here, but there's one additional point, and that is have a plan. But again, that plan doesn't have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It can and it can start very simple, and you fix that tire while that car plan is moving, right? It's like, okay, you can reverse engineer, say you're getting started, you've got things basically set up, you want to start sending mail, you want to target certain areas, certain price. So your plan can be, I'm going to target these certain areas. I've picked my states, my counties. I'm going to send a certain amount of mail, and I'm going to be conservative about the conversion rate I think I'm going to get, and targeting certain number of properties in a certain price point, and just start there. So start a plan. Maybe it's my Q1 plan. I don't have enough knowledge to have an annual plan, but I'm going to do Q1 maybe through Q2. But have some sort of a plan, because that plan is going to dictate your routines every day. Doing area analysis, working on pricing my mailers, etc. Those are things that have to be routine. So you develop that and you go and be consistent about it. So with
Plans force
that,
you to think. And so another one of my favorite quotes: plans are worthless. Planning is priceless.
yes,
I mean,
yeah,
typically few plans survive the start of the war.
right,
They almost get thrown out. This the moment the bullets start flying, the plane gets thrown out, and the moment the offers are out, the plan gets. It doesn't matter. Planning is a process that forces you to organize your thinking and to allocate your time and your energy in very specific ways, so that when it starts and the calls start coming in, and you're like, oh, what do I do, you know how to allocate your time and your energy, even if it's not consistent perfectly with the plan. There's something in your head that says, I understand my business, I understand where I'm going with that, and even if I deviate from the plan, it doesn't matter. You're smarter than you were when you started, and you're going to be more successful.
exactly. Well, with that, we're out. That's another podcast in the can. Everybody have a great week, and we will be back.
Yeah, and please, if you've got any thoughts or comments on what we've talked about, I think there's been a lot of interesting ideas in here, and many of you have your own personal experience. If you are established and experienced investors and you've been through these processes, put your comments in there as a benefit to the new people that are just thinking about entering the land business. If you're just entering the land business and you've got some specific questions, throw them in the comments, and we'd love to see them, and we will answer them. And until next time, thanks for joining us on the Land.MBA podcast, and have a great week.
Awesome.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, had a bit of fun, and walked away with some actionable insights that you can apply to your business. Dave and I have got some great content and interviews planned, so don't forget to rate and review, and of course subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. If we mention any interesting links or tools, you'll find them in the show notes. To learn more about Land.MBA, visit our website at, wait for it, Land.MBA. See you next time on the Land.MBA podcast.